Fearless investors, we're back with another hot one. I'm super stoked about this one because this is with another good friend, Ian Horowitz. The guy's an actual monster when it comes to the self storage space. And speaking of self storage, Kyle, you own a self storage unit, don't you?
Yeah, our good friend, mutual friend here, Stratton, and I own a 138 unit storage facility in North California.
Let's go.
Yeah, got in that 2 years ago, and I'll tell you, I really leaned on Stratton's expertise because he was in who our guest is today, Ian Horowitz's mastermind, and that's where he got most of his knowledge. And what I can say is just like, you'll hear from Ian today the opportunity, right? He talks about literally how one of his storage facilities has made them in equity over $1.4 million in 3 years. And now, like, if they want to sell that, they could cash out 1.4 million after all the debt, which is just crazy, right? Like that, the type of deal that we took on, we bought it for 900,000 as a purchase price. We did a creative finance deal for that. So, intertwine you both. Let's go. 250 down. We had to put 150 into the rehab. But right now we're pretty much like breaking even per month, but it's only 40% occupied and we're building it up to 60, 70. We're going to get it up to about 80% occupied. The cash flow is going to be insane. The overhead is really just one runner who is out there like making sure that things are locked up and taken care of. There's no toilets, there's no tenants, there's no squatters, right? Like all of that. And that's what I really loved about it. And then on top of that, with our plan of, hey, if we can get to 85% occupied and stabilize it in 10 years from now with all the cash flow and with all the equity, we should be able to, I think at that point with everything paid off, we should be at right around a valuation of 1.8 million with all that cash flow on top of it. So, do the math. To me, it's an incredible asset class that takes very little management as long as you can get it to a stabilized point. So I think that's one of the really cool things. And I just really want to encourage everyone to just have an open ear about this, about any exit strategy in real estate, right? Because at the end of the day, yes, Airbnb is what we talk about a lot. Lame has been in other parts of real estate. I've been in other parts of real estate. I think that's the important thing is and Ian will talk about this too, but just having your antenna up for where do I pivot? What am I doing next? And it's not necessarily about changing your path. It's just about being open to, hey, if an opportunity comes your way and a deal comes across your desk, if it doesn't fit into your box, you might be passing up a lot of opportunities.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about this specifically, because Ian, he mentions actually in this podcast how what you're doing in your current business right now is really more or less you're learning things that are going to be transferable into whatever asset class. We've done that naturally, Kyle, right? And I think the idea behind us continually bringing on some of these other guests that have value and have expertise in different arenas of asset classes, like it's only to bring more value to what we're doing here as we build our 6-figure formulas, as we build our CASTRs, as we build our short-term rental portfolio. It only translates to bigger and better stuff. So love it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think, one of the things that Ian will talk about in this as well, and I want to tie this back to something that you said at the Deal Champ Summit that we got to hang out with. Ian said he left his job about 10 to 15 years too late. Like he had already built up a single family home empire and just kept on dragging his feet on leaving his W-2.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so powerful what you said at Deal Champs. And for those of you that are out there, what's Deal Champs? It was a conference that Lame spoke at and that I attended here in my backyard in Fresno, California. And in front of 400 people, man, people were on their feet being yeah, I'm leaving my job. But can you just speak to that for a second? Kind of what you talked about while you were on stage of just why do you think people are so scared to burn the bridges and just go all in?
Yeah, that's such a mental question that I think a lot of people have, and it's a mental battle that really, until you get to the other side of it, it does seem like this big mountain. But when you put it in perspective after taking action, you realize that mountain was really a rock just put right up against your eye, right? At the end of the day, like what people don't realize is when you can essentially give yourself permission to be able to bet on yourself, i.e., quitting your job, putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation financially, putting your back against the wall, a very unique thing happens. You actually give yourself permission to like elevate yourself, your thinking, your emotions, your spirituality, your action taking, because you have to, right? And when you do that, when you bet on yourself, you really put yourself in a position where you elevate all your senses and you figure it out. And you can't even replicate that. You cannot like fabricate struggle and hustle. And so being able to put yourself in that position, I think a lot of people for like they don't realize what they're really capable of because they've never given themselves that permission. So I can go on and on, but that's kind of tip of the iceberg of like, hey, listen, like you're more capable than you realize. And these deals and making money and people, they're not nearly as smart and it's not nearly as complicated as you think it is.
Well, and it's so true too. Like, just from my experience, I remember going back to right when I said yes to real estate. My yes to real estate was I'm going to buy passive investments. And I actually made a like what's it called? Just a goals sheet of where I wanted to be in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And I look back at that and I made that when I had a W-2 job. And so my restriction was just I don't have a ton of time. So here's my goals. My 10-year goal I reached in year 2. And why was that? Because I left my job. Like
Yeah.
I got this thing out of my way that was taking up
Yep.
40 hours a week of my time. And I
Yep.
said, no, I'm going all in. And that's what I think people like. We have some mutual friends that are just like, I need to be able to have that reliable income, that 401k, those things that, I know are there if anything were to happen. Yeah, but like what's not there right now that could be there if you got rid of those things that are quote unquote safety nets. That safety net is honestly just it's a parachute. It's holding you back.
Absolutely. And it's like, it's so funny because people always that I hear, they're like, oh, I made this money doing this, as my side hustle. And it's like, well, imagine if it wasn't your side hustle.
Yeah.
Imagine if it was your main hustle, right?
Well, and all of that to tie back to Ian is just when he finally quit. Now you'll hear he owns 15 storage facilities. Some of them are making him upwards of, like we said, over $1 million in just 2 to 3 years. Do the math there. What would have happened if Ian would have left his job 10 to 15 years before, just like what he said he could have done. So we'll stop putting all the words into Ian's mouth. Let's go ahead and hear straight from him. Ian Horowitz here with Equity Warehouse. Hey, Team Fearless. You've got me and Lame, and we are here with our good buddy, Ian Horowitz, who we got to hang out in Fresno with this last week. And always a pleasure, whether it's virtual or in person, brother. Always good seeing you. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, man. The good news is I can't spill a drink on your wife tonight. So today, it's probably a good thing it's virtual. So
glad you said it, not me.
Yeah,
man. Well, Ian, you've got such an incredible story, bro, and it's so relatable. It's so down to earth, and for that reason, like that's part of guys like why we wanted to bring Ian on. A lot of you might be tuning in and being like, self-storage, like what does that have to do with short-term rentals? Well, here's the thing. Like at the end of the day, I'm looking at multiple exit strategies. We actually bought our first self-storage facility 2 years ago. I know Lame is looking at other strategies, and for that reason, like that's why you want to be tuning in to this podcast and tuning into our community as often as possible, because we're bringing people like Ian in that are going to be discussing other opportunities in the space to be able to grow your portfolio. So Ian, why don't we just start there, man? For those that have not heard your story, just take us back to before you were doing real estate. What were you doing with your life? What got you into it? I think it's an awesome story.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you guys having me on, and you're 100% right. It's all about a tool in the toolbox, and it's actually really fitting to what my story is. I was a career fireman for the city of Baltimore. You ever watch The Wire? That's where we worked. You watch the riots that happened. That's where we worked. You saw the bridge that fell down. That's where we worked, right? Like that's the heart of Baltimore. And with that being said, we got hired in 2007, 2008, just before we're 30, a couple years before we're 30, so you're living the life, about to get married, all those fun things. And simultaneously, the city says, hey, we're going to mess with your pension system. We're going to furlough you. We're going to increase your health care and all these other things. On the other side, the life side, the wife's going, my business partner and I, both our wives are saying, well, we want to have kids. And when we have kids, we want to stay home because nobody else is going to take care of our kids. And you're just going, oh my God, like we make 65 grand a year on a good day, you know, like just, it doesn't make any financial sense. But you know, like I knew there had to be a better way because we used to work 2 10-hour days, 2 14-hour nights. And in my evolution process, I said, man, I'm working before my 2 night works, and then I'm working my 4 days off to then go back to work for my 2 day works to then go work before my 2 night works to go work my 4 days off. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's nonstop, dude. I said, there's got to be a better way. How can I make money while I'm asleep at work? How can I make money? God forbid I'm removed from this planet because I'm in a job that can literally kill you. I'm in a job that can debilitate me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
How can I take care of this family that my wife wants to have? And I stumbled on single family real estate, specifically subsidized rentals. And I started there, and my business partner started wholesaling, and off we went. I mean, I could go on for hours about the rest of our story, but that's really the beginning of our story, was this need of no overtime, how to take care of family, and how to secure a retirement other than what we were relying on from Baltimore City.
Dude, I love it, man. So I kind of because I know a lot of people have probably tactical questions that we're going to ask about with your portfolio and everything like that. But before we jump into that, I kind of want to dive into that transition, right? Because like you obviously see the obvious need of like, hey, I got to figure out how to increase my income. But obviously everybody knows that mental struggle of leaving your W-2, your safety net, to be able to jump all in. How did you do that? Was it a slow progress? Did you do real estate as a side income until it became the main income? Walk me through that process.
Yeah, I think, you know, from the standpoint of, I think every investor should be looking to move active income into passive income to get you to leave your W-2. Now, we hit the tailwinds. Like, we started investing in 2012, 2013, 2014, that era. And we had a lot of tailwinds that allowed us to make a lot of mistakes and have a lot of success.
Right.
With that came a massive portfolio. Straight up, to answer your question, we stayed probably 5 years, maybe 10 years too long. We should have excuse me, I don't mean to curse. We should have cut it off right then and there and just rolled.
Yeah.
But dude, we had identity issues. We had security issues. I mean, we worked so hard for 15 years, or well, at this point, 15 years, but prior to that, we worked for several years trying to get hired. It was a highly competitive job, right? Like we're post 2001 firemen. Well, dude, everyone saw what happened at 9/11. All of a sudden, there's this massive calling that people want to go be firemen. It became really, really, really stinking competitive for us to go out there and get that job. So you earn that job, and then it's an industry that like nobody leaves. You know, it's like, well, you became a fireman, ride your government job, dude, best job in the world. We work, you know, when I left, we were working 24 hours on, 24 off, 24 on, 5 days off. It was, why would you leave, dude? 8 days a month. And I'm like, yeah, 8 days a month, bro. But like 3 months after I leave, 3 of my friends get killed. Right.
Wow.
Several months after that, 2 more of my friends get killed. And it's like, that's why, dude, there's more to life than just this. And for us to leave, it was a massive identity crisis that we needed to overcome. Sure, there was fear of how you're going to make money, but once you figure out how to make money, I hate to say it, guys, it's really simple. Like once you realize how easy it is to make money, you can navigate the process over and over and over again. And it doesn't matter what asset class you're in.
Let's live there for a second, because I think that is the biggest thing that people have to get past is their mindset of money. And this is, again, guys, like before we go into strategy of anything and before we talk about storage facilities and why they're so beneficial, right? Like if you don't have your mindset right about money, it doesn't matter how much you make, right? People go in and they win the lottery and they lose it 3 years later because they don't have the right mindset of money. You just mentioned once you figure that out, money is actually really simple to get. What is that like? If it's an aha moment, if it's a formula, like what is it that's so simple / duplicatable about making money that we're not taught in school, that we're not taught until we really get into the real estate world? What are some of like the key things that you just think people need to hear of why money is simple to acquire?
Yeah, I know Kyle and Lame will attest to this. It takes work. You know, everybody thinks it's just going to show up on your doorstep and say, boom, here you go, right? Like Lame has an insanely amazing success story. Kyle, you have an amazingly successful success story, and so do I. But you know what it is? We all put in the hard work. Well, we might look stoic and out enjoying life or whatever it is. You guys don't see the work that goes in 9 p.m. till midnight or whatever I like getting up early. I'm a 4 to 6 a.m. dude. Like, leave me alone. Don't talk to me. This is my war zone. I want to be done by like 10 a.m. and then the rest of the day is to handle problems. So for me, it's really knowing where you work inside your sphere of excellence. Like, what time of day is that to go out and navigate it? After that, it's just capital allocation. It's capital management. To go back and make this even simpler for your audience is my business partner early on got in some trouble in 08. That's why he started wholesaling. He needed cash. He got jammed up in the crisis. And he had a ton of debt and a ton of everything. And he starts chirping in my ear, Dave Ramsey this, Dave Ramsey that. I'm like, I'm not buying into the cult, bro. But listening to some of the thought process behind having limited debt or removing the debt out of your life makes it a much more freeing experience. Most people can't quit their W-2, not because they're not successful in their side hustle. It's because they have too much debt, too much crap that they're carrying with them. Now, I was a big proponent of buy an asset, let that asset pay for a vehicle. Buy an asset or maybe 2 assets, let that pay my mortgage payment, and so on and so forth. But at a certain time, that leverage game becomes a house of cards. So I would say between the two, the hard work and then knowing how to allocate your capital, when to get debt free, when not to get debt free. Like, I'm at a point in my life now with our success. My next big hurdle is pay my house off. Nobody can touch my kingdom. That's off limits now. And now I'm on KMA time. And if you need to look it up, go Google it. But I'm going to try not to curse on the rest of the show. But you get to do what you want, how you want. You just got to pay that one bill. Making the money's easier because now you're not under the gun. Everybody else is under the gun. I got to make it. I got to make it. I got to make it. And put this stupid stress on yourself and put it up on a silver platter versus getting to a point that allows you to be free, mentally, emotionally, financially stable, and it makes life easier.
Love it. So we've hit hard on mindset. I want to kind of dive into your story tactically, right? So you're at this point, you have a mindset shift, you need to change, you need to increase your income. What was the next step in jumping into real estate? You mentioned it sounded like you low income housing or whatever. Was that the first step of real estate that you got into before warehouses? What your journey look like there?
Dude, guys, we're opportunistic investors. We've taken the ride. We've played in all asset classes. So when I first started, to kind of go back to it, I didn't know. I went to a group, what I thought was a coaching group. I was at work one day. Some dude says, "Hey, why don't you come by after work and let's go check out this real estate group?" I said, "Sure." So we get there. Wound up being a whole scam for like selling people when they were doing the whole MLM stuff for selling energy or whatever. I was like, dude, I'm out. But the cool thing was there was a dude there that owned a bunch of houses, and I said, "Hey man, I want to learn what you do. Sure, I'll show you." So he showed me all about subsidized housing in Baltimore City. I said, "Cool." I went out and bought every book I could. YouTube University really wasn't a thing then. I just asked questions, trying to figure it out. And I took him up on his offer. He said, "Hey, if I ever get anything, I'm going to call you." Text him, called him a few days later. I said, "Dude, I'm serious. Like, if you stumble on something, let me know." Now, mind you, my credit score is like sub 600. It's probably barely 570. I had a little bit of a rough pass. I got $15,000 to my name. He calls me up and says, "Hey, I got this house. I'm selling it for 25 grand. I didn't know what wholesaling was. I didn't know any of it. All I know is I got to the thing. I said, "Damn, this guy's getting 5 grand. What happened here?" And I bought the thing. I got a hard money loan at like 16% and like 7 points. Dude, I had no clue what I was doing. But what I
Yeah.
did do is I went out there and I grinded it out. I did all the work. I didn't do it the right way, but I did it. And I got my first Section 8 tenant, $1,250. I was all in for maybe 50 grand. And dude, I was cash flowing. Even on that crazy hard money loan, I was cash flowing like $600 a month.
Wow.
Let's
Dude, that was
go.
like, dude, that was 2 overtime shifts for me, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
sign me up. Problem was, I didn't know how I was going to refinance. So now I'm taking this extra money. And oh, by the way, guys, like I'm doing that. And I'm still like landscaping with my buddy. I'm still working overtime shifts. I'm doing
Gee.
everything
Wow.
because I got to pay off all my debt to get my credit score up so I can refinance this thing out. And I'm just, look, we had the benefit of no kids at that time. So I was grinding it out, dude. And then not even 6 months later, second house, same neighborhood pops up, $20,000, $5,000 less than the other one. I said, sign me up. Let's go. Still have a hard money loan on the other one. Go pull another hard money loan out. This time I found a lender that would do it with like $3,000 down. Put that down. And those first 2 houses, like they literally changed my life. And off I went from there, kind of figured some stuff out and started to build a portfolio, man. So, but yeah, we cut our teeth in subsidized housing. And what I would say to that is like we learned our management process. We learned the buying process. We learned the refinance process, construction, all that. What did that allow us to do? That allows us to then go into new asset classes as they appear. So, we flipped a bunch of houses. Cool. Then we said, well, we knew how to make rentals. Well, why are we selling all these houses off? We got lump sums of cash. Let's just buy them and keep them as rentals. Cool. We got that. Check that off. And I was like, oh, hey, a 76 unit building pops up, an apartment building. Well, that's just really 76 houses all in one shot. I think we can handle this. Let's do it. Right. We learned our process that allowed us to apply it. So if you're like, yeah, I'm doing short-term rentals to just grab cash, cool. Maybe that is your plan. But you are learning so many skill sets now and learning so much about yourself and building a team to get to whatever you perceive to be the next level. And it might just be more short-term rentals, or it could be new asset classes, or you have an opportunity that arises to be able to go do it, but you can't do it unless you cut your teeth somewhere.
So what ended up being, you mentioned, when asset classes rise up and you have that opportunity, what was the opportunity to you to transition over to storage facilities?
Yeah, for us, it was, we grinded out. We had, right around 100 single family rentals. We're approaching 2018, 2019. Dan and I are yearning for more, right? Like almost like a new challenge. And, we talked about getting Airbnbs. Wasn't really our game. The whole hospitality thought process for us wasn't really for us, even though we ended up with a few. We bought a small industrial warehouse, didn't have much success on it. Now we do today. Bought a couple small apartment buildings, stumbled on a really big apartment building, had great success. The problem was there was a few things. Rinsing and repeating that process was hard where we're located in Maryland. I have DC money. I have Philadelphia money. I got New York, Boston. I got the whole Eastern Seaboard chasing the returns of this great little submarket that we are. So competition was really, really, really hard in the multifamily space. The industrial space, I couldn't really get the returns to work out. The thought process of owning multifamily across the country was like, at that time, was not for me because, it takes a lot of property managers doing the right thing, managing a team. And we couldn't put 2 and 2 together at that point. Now we could. So someone brought us a storage facility, said they were going to this storage class. They wanted to check it out. And I said, sure, dude, I'll get on a plane. Went to Indianapolis, learned from one of the influencers out there. I was like, dude, this is really cool. So I started looking. Well, what happened was as we started to look, there was a lot more opportunity. And there was opportunity outside of the Baltimore submarket. As much as we loved Baltimore, the problem was Baltimore is a hard area to operate in from rental real estate standpoint. The consumer has the advantage, whereas we could buy market diversity. We could get out of state. We could enjoy areas that we enjoy, and we could operate them from afar relatively easy, similar to, the Airbnb short-term rental game. And that's really what attracted us to storage, with the exception of you guys have hospitality, you have heat, you have water, you have plumbing, you have guests in your house. I have a metal garage with a metal box on a piece
Yeah.
of concrete that someone's storing stuff in the unit because, well, they got nowhere else to put it and the wife doesn't want it in the house no more. And I
Yeah.
would say that's the big competitive advantage from a tenant standpoint in my mind.
Love it. So walk me through a little bit of your business today. Like in terms of how many square foot of storage space do you guys own? What does your team look like? You mentioned management teams. Is that in-house? Are you guys just working with local partners with each of your deals? I'd love to learn more about that, the details of your structure.
Yeah, so currently we have about 15 team members, from boots on the ground to service guys to office admins and call center agents and everything in between. Um, we found that a lot of the times outsourcing property management is just, it calls control freaks, call us whatever you will. They just don't fit,
Yep.
doesn't fit into our box. So that being said, um, we like to self-manage a lot of stuff. On the capital side of things, setting up deals, for the most part, what we do is we find a deal, we put first position debt in, and then we go out to our friends and family and we go out and find co-investors or co-lenders to join us in the deal. And they put their 401ks or their IRAs or cash that they have on hand into our deals in exchange for some sort of return, whether it's a percentage rate plus some equity, or maybe it's just a flat rate note. And that's been the easiest way for us to structure it, just because it's simple. Our investor base is relatively simple, and I want to be able to look someone in the eye. Like, you guys know, we were just at an event with 1,000 people or 500 people. And if one of my investors was there, I want to be able to walk up, shake their hand and say, hey, how's it going? And our terms are very clear. I don't want some convoluted waterfall and all kinds of other goofy stuff you guys see out on the internet. And then one of my investors walks up to me and says, you triggered the waterfall, but I calculated the return and it's only 14.97%. You're like, I don't want that. Like, I want to be able to go there, drink beers, smoke cigars, have fun. That's what I want to do when I run into someone. And that's why we just keep it simple and keep our investor base, and everybody's on board, right? Like, the capital markets will tell you if you're setting your deals up the right way. And obviously we've done something, because we've been able to raise well over 20 million bucks to put people into our deals,
So Ian, taking a step back here, you've talked about the benefits and the low maintenance of all this, but what's the actual opportunity? Like right now, if someone were to be interested in getting into storage facilities, what's the opportunity? What do returns look like? What is the numbers?
Yeah. The best way to explain that is storage. The opportunity still lies probably similar to the way you guys experience it is, we deal more in the mom and pop operators.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean? That means it was the local successful contractor that owns a storage facility in whatever town, USA, and all his buddies call him up and say, yo, I need to rent a unit. All right, cool. And those are the deals that we're looking for. They say, whoever they is, I guess some sort of self-storage council, believes that 70% of the 50,000 facilities that exist in America are still operated like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a ton of opportunity. The same way, as long as I'm sure short-term rentals continue to pop up all over this country, there's still demand in all the market locations. You can find something and get market share because you're going to do better. You're going to operate better. That's the type of deal that we're looking for, and they still continue to exist today. On the return side of things, dude, like, I'll tell you, you can outsize return, but sure, you can screw that up too. You could take a super safe deal and just navigate it. What I would say is, to achieve the money out of that return is exponentially easier. To give you an example, we bought a deal in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. We were all in somewhere around 1.4 to 1.6 with like capital. With capital improvements. The guy was a local contractor. He was a local developer, bought a retail center, converted it. Cool. He had an employee there, didn't have a website, wasn't answering the phone. the thing was he had an employee there, but you had to use the gate code to go in and rent from the office. I'm like, well, dude, how do you get into the facility to talk to the guy to rent the unit? Like, this doesn't make sense, right? So I was like, all right, this is a management play. So we go in there, website, get rid of the employee, actively manage it from our call center, put a boots in the ground on place. Well, within 9 months, we got a valuation of $3 million and took out a $2.1 million loan. We were able to return almost $500,000 plus the original capital investment to all of our investors. Check. Okay. Now today we're getting ready to do a big portfolio sale, and we're looking at selling that one piece of that at 2.85. I know I said $3 million valuation, but today's markets dictate 2.85. Well, literally, we're in somewhere between 1.4 and 1.6. That's almost a complete double, right? Like, literally, if it sells, we made $1.4 million in less than 3 years. And that's just one of 15 storage facilities that we own. And to me, the equity pop, the availability for additional cash is what's huge. And short-term rentals, you guys make a ton of cash flow, but you're limited by the amount of equity you can pop out based on the fact that you're dealing in single-family real estate. Whereas we're dealing in commercial real estate, that every dollar I bring in, we can show the capitalization rate with that to get a higher value, to get a bigger equity pop.
Yeah. So that's gas. So I kind of want to talk a little bit more about the deal structure then, because you mentioned your guys' niche avatar of a seller is like these small mom paws. Has there, I have to ask, has there been any opportunity for creative finance? Like, have you structured a deal creatively, or are you going and getting traditional first lien debt?
Yeah, I mean, the market was hot. Like, all markets get hot. Nobody wants to hold notes. Nobody wants to hold paper. As markets cool down, all of a sudden, all the brokers, hey, owner finance this, owner finance that. They're tossing it at you. Excuse me. So with that being said, 100%. And the more you source the deals off market, the more likelihood you can get creative finance deals. Now, what I would say is we're dealing in B2B, right? Like, I'm dealing with a business owner selling to another business owner.
Right.
In the single family space, we always found it was hard to get. We did a couple owner finance, couple assumptions. We did a couple of them, but they were always massive hurdles to jump by building that rapport, because it's usually consumer to business. Consumer to business usually feels like you're getting screwed, right? Whereas for us, it's B2B. The sophistication of the owners, even though they're the mom and pop operator in town, they understand money. They understand they don't want to pay. I don't care who's in the office, whether it's Biden, Trump, or anyone in between. They do not want to pay the man at the top. And they understand that. And they understand the benefits of owner financing. They understand capital allocation. And that's, I think, where a lot of the power and sophistication comes in. I mean, we're working on a deal on a flex space right now that the guy's going to commit the $2 million property in his equity on a $20 million deal. Well, I only need to bring $1 million to the table now because more build cost is about half that, right? He's bringing almost 20% of the capital stack by committing the land as equity. I only got to bring a little more money to the table, and we're going to go build this facility. Again, that guy understands the power of, hey, I'm a landscaper by trade. I entitled this land. I don't want the headache of operating this. I don't want to build this. But Ian and team seems like a really good group of people. I trust what they say they're going to do. I'll assist them. I'll commit the land in, and let's go do this thing. So that's 100% commercial real estate. A lot more. I believe there's a lot more opportunity for it than in the single family space.
Love it.
So Ian, at one point you said that you guys have raised about $20 million. Can you talk about what that process has looked like, where most of that money has come from, and just a lot of people out there, right? Like, they're just, I can't even raise $20,000 for a down payment. How are you raising 20 million, right? If we can just speak to that for a second, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I think this is really important. If you guys can't tell, like, I come from a blue collar background, and a friend of mine, Jason and Chris, they run Hard Money Bankers. Shameless plug, but they've deployed almost $50 million in private capital into hard money loans. And I'd always sit there and talk to them, and I'm like, dude, you guys are just white collar guys. You're in DC. You just got a better network. And Chris would always sit there and say, dude, you have it. You just got to put it out there. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And the first few years, was a lot of begging, which I found out is not the way to go, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
take it off the table. And it was a lot more of, hey, we have opportunity. However, we're completely capitalized. Well, now people create that fear of missing out, and people want to know what you're doing. Building the case studies. Like, if you check out our website, you'll see case studies of deals we've done, and whether I need capital or not. Like, even Lame and Kyle, like, if they said, hey, I need to deploy money, I'd say, well, we're capitalized. Like, they're my boys, and I might need money today. I would literally say, well, we're well capitalized right now. When something pops up, I will let you know. Now you're controlling the situation. You're navigating it. You're putting them into your ecosystem the way you want to do. And I'll tell you what, straight up honest, I'd say 80 to 90% of the capital that we've raised is from friends, family, and firemen. That is it. There is no private equity funds here. I wouldn't even want to deal with it because I don't want another job. These are my friends and my family, and that's it. And all referrals.
So
And,
really quick, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that right there was what I wanted to point out. You said that you were making close to nothing as a firefighter. How are you getting firemen to lend you money on deals if they're making, just enough to put food on the table?
Yeah, dude, there's firemen are pretty crafty dudes. Some of them marry up pretty well.
There you go.
Doctors, nurses, lawyers, the opposites attract, right? But with that being said, there's some dudes are just crafty. Like, one of our biggest investors, just very, very, very frugal guy. The joke is that, like, he literally times his wife in the shower and she's only allowed to take cold showers. And but he's just a frugal dude, right? Like, but he stacks cash, and his wife is like the head of public safety at a big known university down here in DC, and she gets paid really well. And they just stack cash. And he's like, hey man, I got 25 grand. Hey man, I got 5 grand. I got 10 grand. And we kept our increments smaller in 25 grand tranches. Well, it might be a headache on my end. It's much more obtainable. The one dude might get a settlement, right, from getting hurt on the job and say, look, I'm debt free. Because that's what we do. We spend a lot of time educating our friends and family on, like, why you should get debt free, why you should be financially secure. Next, like, hey, I got 25 grand available to me. I don't need this money. And then they have the ability to invest with us. So yeah, I mean, 100%. It's there. Everybody on this call or everybody that winds up watching this, you're going to 100% find out that you have it in your network and people want to learn about it. They just need to know that you're actually doing it. And again, in the fire department, our biggest problem was that's a humble job, right? Like, you show up, you got 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth for a reason. And if you're well liked by your peers, usually if you kept your mouth shut to get to where you are today. And it's a right to be able to talk. So, like, we started investing in real estate, and it's like, dude, we got all this success. I got to tell everybody about it. But I can't go to the kitchen table at work and be like, yo, boys, I just made an extra $1,000 this month on my 2 rental properties. Everyone's like, that's a scam, this, blah, 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 that. You're going to get screwed. I had to tune that noise out, keep our heads down, build a massive portfolio, literally tell people that I was going to quit. And then all of a sudden, like, yo, dude, what are you doing? I want in. So yeah, man, it's just telling people what you do, being vocal, being direct, being forthright about it, and let them educate, never sell, always educate.
I love that because it speaks to a principle that I feel like I am always saying to the masses, and that's like money follows the deal, and deals in any market, they're created, they're not found, right? And so as soon as you really figured out and had the ability to find these deals and to create the deal, the money naturally came, right? And so I love that. So there's a lot of people there's a lot of people, they're hearing your story. It's awesome. You're killing it now. Where do people start? What's your number one piece of advice for people that are looking to start to jump into real estate, whatever asset class they may be? In your experience, what would be the best piece of advice?
Yeah, I mean, my maturity level didn't allow me to buy commercial real estate day one. I mean, just straight up honest, right?
Yeah,
like, if you would have handed me $1 million and said good luck, I would have lost it all. Just that's just where I was. It took me a while to mature as an adult. So other people have it. They can start at 25 and go buy commercial real estate and figure. Look at Donald Trump, right? His dad handed $1 million. Look what he did. And this isn't political. That's just straight up honesty. With that being said, you need to pick and figure out what is right for you. What worked for me in day one, I had little to no money. I had zero credit. Screw it. If I take this 15 grand and lose it, I got 30 years to figure it out. I'll just stay in my fire department job. It doesn't matter. I'll declare bankruptcy and get it over with. It didn't matter. Like, I just put it out on the line. Today, if I had to start over, I'd be looking for something that produces cash immediately. But what does all this mean rather than me just talking around it? Figure out what works for you and go swing the bat. There's 1,000 different ways to do real estate. Lending, short-term rentals, office, industrial, single family. I'm probably missing something. Wholesaling. Everybody was just at this Deal Champ Summit that we were at this weekend. Everyone's talking about something different. It all sounds amazing. Figure out what's going to work for you, for your family, for your lifestyle, and most importantly, for your risk tolerance. If you have horrible risk tolerance, you probably should be a lender and lend really little amounts of money for high interest rates. And if you have a lot of risk, then go out and do what Lame did and go grind it out and knock out a 100-house portfolio almost immediately, right? And if you're somewhere in between, you're going to find out where you land. So with that being said, like 100%, dude, just figure out what's going to work for you. Do your research, jump in. Don't chase the shiny object. Get experience. Get the calluses on your hand, and then go and figure out what else you can do.
Ian, awesome stuff, man. I love that. I love that encouragement. And I 100% agree with everything that you said here today. I think that if other people agree with you and want to hear more, they should go follow you. So where can they do that?
Yeah, best place to find us out on the internet is Equity Warehouse. We're on all the platforms. All my friends keep telling me I need a personal brand page, but I don't have one yet. So just look under Equity Warehouse, or you can check out equitywarehouse.com, and you can check out case studies. I'm not asking you to invest, but more importantly, maybe it's just a thing that allows you to learn how to pitch investors and check out our funnel, check out how it works. Equitywarehouse.com. Other than that, I'm accessible on the internet. Instagram is the best place I communicate. Or bug Kyle and Lame and tell them to track me down, and I will talk to almost anyone. So
do just that. We would love to connect anyone listening here to you, Ian.
Yeah.
Lame, you got anything else?
No, brother. Hey, you've been a wealth of knowledge. Appreciate your time. Thanks for coming and dropping bombs, brother. Appreciate you.
Hell yeah. Appreciate you guys having me out in California, even though you guys weren't hosting. And more importantly, thanks for getting me to the airport, brother. I got caught up in Salt Lake for 6 hours, and I got stuck because our pilots got not hurt. They got timed out. So I sat in the lounge, and I enjoyed the beautiful snow-capped mountains. But anyway, appreciate you guys. Anything I could do for you or your community, you guys know where to find me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. All right, guys, go check out Ian Horowitz, like you mentioned, at Equity Warehouse. Lame, we got another student that closed a deal or two. You want to talk about that with the CASTR method?
Yeah, some of you CASTR guys have seen maybe a video floating around of David. He's a Caucasian gentleman in his Tesla just recording, talking about how he purchased a deal in a small town, and it made him $10,000 in his first month. He just called me 2 days ago, actually, and he just closed on his 7th. Wow. So he's bought 7 doors since December, right?
Wow.
Now, granted, we've talked about mindset. We talk about chains of W-2. He's still working his job. And I keep telling him, I'm like, bro, you got to jump, right? But I love it because this is the opportunity of the market and the strategy, guys. Like, this really is it. Like, the most fulfilling thing for me is seeing people actually put into play the things that we've put out for them and getting the results that I've gotten, right? Yeah. And that now David is getting. And so super stoked for him. Congratulations, David, if you're listening to this. Huge shout out, brother.
And that's a guy who's just been doing this since December. I mean, it's pretty incredible, man. Like and I'll be a testament to this too. You know, one of our mutual friends, Kyle, just closed on a deal as well in Northern California. And like, that's in my market too. And I've given you every excuse in the book of like why my market is tougher than yours. But there goes Kyle, and he goes and closes one in my market. It's like, if you're ready to do the deals, then they come. If you build it, they will come, right? Like if you speak it into existence, they're going to come. So just get after it. And if you're not a part of the CASTR community, you need to go check it out. You can go ahead and DM us on Instagram, and we can send you more information. And of course, our Instagram is at The Fearless Investors. So guys, thanks for joining us today to learn more about storage facilities. We'll go ahead and check you out on the next one on the Fearless Investors podcast.
Take it easy.